So if you're an entrepreneur, you've got to have a ruthless streak in you.
Welcome back to Main Entre. I'm your host, Quentin Fuller, serving you all bite-sized business tips and inspiration today from Newark, Delaware, with Dr. Joel Shertok. Dr. Joel, man, this food looks really good. I can't wait to order. Are you hungry?
Always hungry.
The hardest part about looking at a restaurant menu is having to choose one thing. What is that one thing that you ultimately chose to pursue in your career?
Engineering is one of the few courses of study where a bachelor's degree can get you a pretty nice starting salary. So I get chemical engineering as my profession. I do history and economics as a hobby.
Now, how did you know that that idea was worth pursuing?
Well, it's just as a junior, there was a book in my school library called "So You Want to Become a Chemical Engineer." I took it out, I read through it, and I said, "Hey, this is pretty neat. This is something I like to do. It combines chemistry, it combines physics, it combines math, all things I kind of liked." And did a little reading and said, "Hey, this is profession of the future. This is what I'm going to do."
Did you actually know my first job was actually as a server in a restaurant? Do you remember your first job and what it was?
Vividly, I was a sub clerk in the United States Post Office. I did that the summer of my senior year and the summer of my freshman year in college. I worked midnight shift at GPO and Church Street Station in New York City Post Office.
When did you actually acquire your appetite for entrepreneurship?
Well, it was a matter of necessity. Some people say I could not tolerate working for somebody else. I have to work for myself. I can't work for anybody else. And I was a corporate rat. I spent 40 years in my career working for Union Carbide, working for Amoco, working for smaller companies, and I had no problem. I never felt it was degrading to work for a corporation. I did pretty well. I rose to senior vice president. So I liked it. But I got to 65 and a half, and my company said, "Hey, it's time to retire." And I said, "I don't want to retire." And they said, "Well, you got no choice because they're wiping out your job." So there'd be a very nice goodbye party. And then I was out the door. So what do you do when you're 65 and a half? Well, you're not going to find another job. That's pretty clear. No one's going to hire somebody at that age. So I looked into franchising and I really couldn't find a good match. I said, wait a second. I'm a chemical engineer. I have a lot of background. Why don't I become a consultant? So I decided in 2014 to form my own consultancy company, and the rest is history.
I actually have a friend of mine who goes into restaurants and to build rapport and in just a way to network, he gets these customized pins with his name on them and he hands them out to all the servers in the restaurant. Do you have any tips or tricks or anything that you do when you go out to network or meet with other business owners like yourself?
There's really no gimmicks there. If you're an engineer, if you do strange things, it destroys your credibility. Because if you have a client, he's entrusting you with millions and millions of dollars of equipment. So my business card is my gimmick. And that's what I use. I make sure that whenever I go to a networking meeting, I have lots and lots of business cards. I give them out, and we take it from there.
Nice. Let's share appetizer. How about that? Appetizers or fancy appetizers are actually called hors d'oeuvres, which
Correct.
means outside of work in French. What is it that you like to do outside of work?
Well, like I said, I was always interested in history, always interested in economics. So I read history quite a bit. I have a very extensive history library. And my specialization is European history between 1789 and 1945.
So, as I actually look at this menu we have here, this main entree menu, I notice some really interesting ingredients. What ingredients do you think makes up a successful entrepreneur?
There's only one: persistence. Persistence, persistence, persistence. Now, you have to have something that people want. And in my case, it's technical expertise. But to be entrepreneur means that, at least in my case, because I'm a solo entrepreneur, you have to do everything yourself. I do my own sales, I do my own marketing, do my own technical work, do my own printing, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm a one man shop, which means it makes for very long days. If you don't do it, it doesn't get done. So if you don't go in with that mindset that it's up to me and I can't delegate, that's the most important thing.
What would you say that your recipe for a successful day looks like? How do you start your days and finish your days?
Well, as I said, so you have to start your day by looking for new customers. You have to, in the middle of the day, actually do some technical work, and at the end of the day, find more customers. So I use LinkedIn quite a bit to look for my ideal client, which in my case is an operations VP for a chemical company. Uh, you've got to contact them, recruit them, see that you offer them value. But again, they're hiring you for technical work. They're not hiring you to do your own marketing. So you have to leave time in your day to make sure that you can actually have time to do what you have to do.
So, as you know, Joel, sometimes when you eat, things get really messy. Can you tell me about a messy time in your entrepreneurial journey?
Being an entrepreneur is always being kind of messy. And I think the most interesting thing is I was dealing with a local company. It's maybe only 3, 4 miles away from where I live. And the guy offered me a very nice contract to come in and give him a hand. And what he was doing is he was processing wastewater from chicken factories. If you're in a chicken plant, you're constantly washing down your equipment, sterilizing it, and that water has to go someplace. So it goes into a sluice and gets discharged. But you can't just discharge it into the sewer. It's got protein and mess and blood and God knows what. So he was developing a process that took this water and actually reclaimed all the protein that could be used as pet food. So it seemed like an interesting assignment. But when I got there, the guy really had no idea how to use me. He was a former guy who worked for Boeing, and he never made the transition from Boeing to becoming an entrepreneur. So it was a really messy situation. I came in every day, and he really had no idea how to use me. And he had two very junior engineers working, and they said, "Yeah, it's kind of typical. He really doesn't have a he doesn't have a good plan in his mind." So I stayed for a couple of months, and eventually decided this is not going to work, and we parted as friends.
I'm really hungry here, so let's share a main entree. Today's main entree is actually brought to you by Riverfront Bakery, who's been kind enough to bless us with a few items, Joel. I'm excited to actually try them. They're known for their scones, they're known for some of their other pastries. So I want to really see how this tastes here. And I'm going to go ahead and allow you to have the first bite.
Okay.
How's that taste?
Wonderful.
Good.
Mm.
So many restaurants, they have a signature dish that they're known for, something that makes them really special. What is it that makes your business special?
What makes me special is I bring to the party 40 years of chemical engineering experience, 50 years now. As I said, I began working in 1975. So if you hire me as a consultant, I bring in a fair amount of expertise. I've been at plant trials in chemical plants. I've been in plant trials in biotech plants, plant trials in filter plants. It gives me a pretty broad perspective on what I can expect from a plant, from a manufacturing system, and all the problems I'm going to run into. So you're hiring not only my technical knowledge, by my perspective as well.
So I sent you your own custom main entree fork that I send to everybody that I dine in with. And one thing I like about forks is, or utensils in general, they're like tools, right? They help you get the job done. So are there any special tools that you lean on and recommend for entrepreneurs to use?
The best tool you can use right now is AI. AI is a horrible name. I don't know who came up with it. Because what they have right now is not artificial intelligence. It's not robots. What they have today is very, very glorified Googles, but they are very, very fantastic. What used to take me hours to do can be done in minutes. So if I want to look up chemical properties, ask an AI program. If I want a literature search done on a technical topic, I can ask AI to do the search for me. If I need a summary done of a certain background expertise that I don't have, AI can do that for me. So I use 3 or 4 different programs that have given me great success. I had a client who wanted me to write a white paper on the hydrogen economy. Now, that's not my expertise, but by using ChatGPT and asking judicious questions and kind of drilling down and doing some editing, I was able to generate a 26-page white paper in about 5 hours, which would have been unheard of with just the normal tools. So AI is your friend.
These honestly, these scones are really good too, by the
They are
way.
very good. They're too good.
So I'm a big, I love flavors. I love the taste. Is there a big mistake that you find that entrepreneurs make that leave a bad taste in your mouth?
Well, the biggest mistake you can make is not realizing what you're getting into. No, it's the old joke that you decide to become an entrepreneur and you put your shingle out on your door and nothing happens. Because unless you have a well established expertise, unless you're given papers and given presentations, nobody knows who you are. Like one guy in one of my research groups was an authority on water treatment. He knew everything there was on water treatment. He delivered papers. He was on specification standards. So when he retired, everybody knew who he was. He had no problem getting business. They loved him. I was a manager. I didn't have that reputation. So nobody knew who I was from the standpoint of being a consultant. You have to do your publicity. Unless you do that, unless you do your sales and marketing, you're gonna die on the vine.
So if you could take a bite out of anybody's playbook, your favorite entrepreneur, who would it be? What entrepreneurs do you look up to besides yourself?
Well, the problem is most entrepreneurs are incredibly eccentric. Otherwise, they wouldn't be entrepreneurs. So you have Elon Musk. He built a business from discarded Russian rockets to SpaceX. That's pretty good. He developed an electric car from nothing when everybody laughed at him because nobody saw the future. But he is an eccentric personality. Steve Jobs had this vision of making an easy to use personal computer back in the 70s when that didn't exist. But he was a rough guy to work for. He knew what he wanted and you delivered or else. Same thing with Bill Gates. So if you're an entrepreneur, you've got to have a ruthless streak in you. So you can admire the methodology, you can admire the tenacity, but you have to understand to be a true entrepreneur, sometimes you have to have a miserable personality.
Some things aren't always likable, right? So that's what I always say about entrepreneurship itself. It's more of an acquired taste, right? Not everything's likable. What are some things that you have to grow to love in order to succeed as an entrepreneur?
Lots of frustration. I mean, that's probably the biggest part of an entrepreneur's life. In fact, anybody who sells something is you can do a sales presentation, you can do all the right things, you think you got the guy hooked. At the last minute, he says, nah, no thanks. So you've got to understand a 5% success rate is pretty good. If you can make 100 contacts and get 5 people offering you business, that is pretty good. But that's not the way most people think. Most people think I'm going to hang out my shingle and I'm going to be inundated. And that's not the case. Also, demand is very lumpy. You'll be successful one day and not successful the next. So I had a very, very good 2024, but so far 2025 is not as good as I'd like. So I've got to get out there and hustle and get more customers. It's as simple as that.
Riverfront Bakery gave us a good mini cannoli. Have you tried that yet?
I love cannolis.
You should try that one. It's got some riscotti cheese on it. Restaurants get really creative with the presentation of their desserts. It always leaves a good lasting impression and makes me want to come back. How do you go about leaving a good lasting impression? Do you have any tips for us there?
Basically, you want to keep your customers satisfied. For every entrepreneur and every guy in retail, you have to have a happy customer, and you have a happy customer by meeting your commitments. You say, I'm going to do X, Y, Z, and it's going to be finished at time zero. And if you give the customer that, you have a happy customer. It's really very simple. It's meeting expectations.
So tell us the sweetest thing about being an entrepreneur.
I bet the best thing is you don't have a boss. You are fully and totally responsible for the outcome of a project. So working in the corporate world, there's a lot of politics. Everybody wants to take credit for success, and nobody wants to be responsible for a failure. So you always have to watch your back and understand that your boss's interest may not be in your best interest. And I have a number of stories about that. Whereas being an entrepreneur, you're responsible for yourself and for yourself only. And your success is up to your efforts and not political nonsense.
If you were given the opportunity to order seconds, order more food, start over in your entrepreneurial journey, would you order anything different this time around?
Well, the big debate I had way back when was, do I go for a PhD or do I go for an MBA? It's hard to do both. And either of those gives you a viable career path. So one might say, maybe if I had to do over again, maybe I would have gone for the MBA instead of the PhD, which would have put my career on a completely different trajectory. But having said that, I can't complain. I mean, I parlayed a 5-year career as a graduate student into a 50-year career. And a 10-to-1 payoff is pretty good. If you went to the racetrack and got a horse that paid off 10-to-1, you'd be a pretty happy guy.
For me, dessert is the best part of the meal, right? What is your best piece of advice?
The best piece of advice is know what you want to do. You can't muddle your way through being an entrepreneur. You can't muddle your way through to starting your own business. You have to know what you want to do, put in the time, put in the effort, educate yourself, and understand there's going to be lots of disappointments. Entrepreneurship is up and down and up and down and up and down. One day is good, one day is bad. 1 month is good, 1 month is bad. you're never going to know. A lot of it's out of your control. So you have to learn to roll with the punches. And no, at the end of the day, you can go to sleep knowing that you've accomplished something.
This has been really helpful, Joel. The meal has been good. The conversation has been good. But now it's time to pay the bill. And I always like to leave a tip. So, do you have any final tips for us entrepreneurs?
Just if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you've got to have gumption and you've got to have stick to itness. If you're not willing to put time into the business day after day after day, nights and weekends, you won't be successful. It's as simple as that.
Are you hungry for more? Subscribe to Free Appetizers, our free newsletter for entrepreneurs served fresh weekly at mainentre.com. And now you can order Main Entre to go. Main Entre is now available on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. And there you have it. I think it's safe to say that this has been another well-done episode. Make sure that you tune into our next episode to see what we've cooked up. So until then, thank you for dining in with us. We hope to see you again soon. Take care.